Before the MCU kicked off with Iron Man in 2008, there were 6 Marvel shows made through the 90s that are all somewhat interconnected, making their own little, Marvel universe, Marvel TV universe, MTU. But we'll be talking about only one show in particular, the only good one besides the X-Men, I guess, is Spider-Man, the animated series, I guess if you want to call it that. This Spider-Man show is the second best Spider-Man show ever made behind Spectacular Spider-Man, obviously. And it is the second best superhero show made that decade, we know, behind Batman, the animated series. But this show lasted 5 seasons and consisted of 65 episodes from 1994 to 1997. In the first season, you are introduced to Spider-Man slash Peter Parker and all his friends, and the main cast of villains they will be fighting throughout the next 5 seasons. For villains, you got Doc Ock, the Lizard, Kingpin, Kraven, the Hunter, Mysterio, and the Scorpion. The only thing that sucks about this is that you never get to really see Electro to the end, to like the final season, and Sandman never makes an appearance, so that also kind of sucks. And I'm not sure if I'm forgetting any major Spider-Man villains, but those are probably like the only main ones we see. The only friends Peter gets are Felicia Hardy, which turns out to be Black Cat later on, Mary Jane, Harry Osborn, and that's pretty much it. The only notable thing that happens in the first season is when the Venom suit and the Hobgoblin are introduced. The Alien Costume Trilogy episodes is one of the best arcs of the series and some of the best episodes of the first season, if not the best episodes of the first season. Because the first season is kind of a little lackluster. It's kind of boring. There's only a couple of good episodes, I guess, but the Venom series or the Alien Symbiote arc is definitely the best part of the entire first season. So when Peter actually gets the suits and obviously intensifies his rage and his I guess vulnerability to I guess his rage in general, he tries to kill Shocker and Rhino in one of the episodes, which is pretty cool. And the voice actor goes above and beyond to display anger, which is just pretty pretty funny. But yeah, but when he finally loses it by like what the fuck is it, like concussion, fucking hearing, something weird like that. Anyway, when he loses the suits, it goes to Brock, which Brock has been feuding with Peter Parker this entire time because well, he basically gets him to lose his job in one of the prior episodes because he basically fakes Spider-Man incidents. I'm pretty sure something like that. But when Brock ends up getting the venomous symbiotes, it's the only iconic. It's the most iconic version of Venom ever. Nothing in the games, nothing in the movies, and nothing in I guess you would say the comics, but in like live, I don't know, outside the comics, I guess this is the most iconic version of Venom ever, and there's no debate ever about that. So in this trilogy, when Eddie Brock does get the suits, he tries to kidnap Peter Parker or Spider-Man, whichever one, because well, the suit knows that Spider-Man is Peter Parker, and so Brock knows that as well. So when he ends up getting him, he tries to unmask him in front of like J. Jonah Jameson and the whole fucking Daily Bugle news crew or whatever, and that doesn't work out for Venom. So they end up finding on like some NASA launch site where the same concussive hearing disorder Venom has or something. That basically knocks the symbiote off of Brock, and Spider-Man webs it up on some rocket and goes out to outer space until we don't see it till like season 3, I think. So yeah, that's the last we see of Venom for a while. So yeah, and Eddie Brock is taken to some uh, fucking psychiatric ward where he ends up meeting Cletus Cassidy, but that's not until season 3 though. Season 2 kicks off with the Insidious slash Sinister Six being formed by the Kingpin to kill Spider-Man because, he's like all up in Kingpin's business, like usual. But through these couple of episodes, Spider-Man starts to lose his powers, so he goes to Dr. Connors and Craven's girlfriend for help, which they ultimately don't really help, except for Craven's girlfriend. So, yeah. But while he's trying to keep his powers, he also looks to the X-Men for help, starring the multiple cameos of other heroes in this show. and they ultimately don't help either. But Beast kind of like I don't know, throws him under his wing for like 5 seconds before he gets kidnapped, and then that's pretty much it for the X-Men in this series. So yeah. So after trying to get his I don't know, spider strength, spider powers back, he ends up getting more mutations, uh, I guess, in him or something like that. So he ends up starting feeling like pains and shit like that, and starts growing like 6 arms in one of the episodes. But before that, Michael Morbius is introduced, and he steals a vial of Peter Parker's blood, which he doesn't know is Spider-Man's blood. He does tests on it, and the same way Spider-Man got his Spider-Man powers, I guess, it's the same way Michael Morbius got his powers, except for like a spider crawling in like the little radioactive laser thing. It was just a bat, so he ends up becoming the Morbius, the living vampire, basically. So that happens. After Morbius becomes the living vampire, the Punisher comes in to kill Spider-Man, not Morbius, because everyone thinks that Spider-Man kidnapped Morbius or some shit like that. So that doesn't end up turning out good for the Punisher because Spider-Man turns into the Man Spider, and then so Craven, the Hunter, comes out of nowhere to help, I guess, hunt Peter Parker down or the Man Spider down, so his girlfriend can turn back into Peter Parker, which he does. And after that, those two just go away for some reason, and then Blade comes in to try to kill Michael Morbius because he's a vampire, and Blade hates vampires, and that basically doesn't work out either. So Morbius just flies away, and then Blade leaves, and then Spider-Man leaves. So that's pretty much the end of season 2. Mary Jane gets hypnotized by Mordo, so Spider-Man goes to Doctor Strange for help, and they end up finding Dormammu in the Dark Dimension, and well, they end up winning. So that's like the only part we see of Doctor Strange. Madam Web makes her first appearance, telling him a great war is coming, and he is gonna have to be prepared for that war, basically. But you know, he just scoffs it off. And in that same episode, he meets a little girl named Tina, who he later reveals his secret identity to, and that's the only other person besides Mary Jane he reveals it to. So kind of weird. And this girl never like comes back, so she's just like a throwaway character. So that kind of sucks. Even though he shared like a big thing that I guess superheroes aren't really supposed to be doing, giving away their secret identity. She's like never pops up again. So there's no real like repercussions that's gonna happen again. So yeah. So the Green Goblin finally appears, and the first episode is kind of ass, but it's fine. But he basically wants to kill whoever did him and Norman or Osborn wrong, or them wrong, or whatever you want to, I guess, frame it as. And well, basically Spider-Man not fucking stops him, and it's pretty easy. And he, I guess, what's his name? Green Goblin bangs his head against like something or something like that, and I guess he just comes back as normal old Norman Osborn for a while. So it's kind of a lame episode to introduce the Green Goblin in, but it's whatever. In one episode, Peter is framed for treason by the Kingpin's son. So Matt Murdock slash the Daredevil helps him prove his innocence, and well, I guess saves him from being jailed or whatever. So that's a okay thing for Daredevil. I think that's the only part he's in. So yeah, it kind of sucks. Episode 10 and 14 are the best episodes in the season. First, Dormammu sends the Venom and Carnage symbiotes to form with Brock and Cleus Cassie so they can help him leave the Dark Dimension. To leave the Dark Dimension, though, he sends Venom and Carnage to steal some dimension-altering device made by Tony Stark. So, yeah, at this little convention, both Spider-Man or Spider-Man Peter Parker, or they are both there, whatever the fuck. So while they're trying to steal it, both a War Machine and Spider-Man try to stop them, but they end up failing, and War Machine ends up going down. So Iron Man has to tag in to help Spider-Man while fighting in the little Dormammu's lair, or what's his name, fucking Mordo's lair. Venom's girlfriend he met at the psychiatric ward or whatever makes him rethink his actions, and he basically takes down both Dormammu and Carnage, sacrificing himself by trapping all of them in the Dark Dimension. And that's basically the only time we get to see what's his name, Carnage and Venom for the entire series. Same with Dormammu. I'm pretty sure I don't have it written down, but I'm pretty sure Doctor Strange doesn't even make an appearance in this episode, even though it's like dealing with his, I guess, specialty. And then what's his name? Mordo gets away, but like he never comes back later on. So I'm not sure if it interconnects with any of the other fucking TV shows. But I know there are a bunch of other cameos. Like I know Doctor Doom takes a. I think Doctor Doom's in fucking. I think the Silver Surfer or something like that. But anyway, the last two episodes in this season are really great. They do rival the last I guess prior four episodes with the whole Carnage symbiote being introduced. But this is pretty cool. It's my favorite. What do you want to say? A season finale of the entire seasons by far. So yeah. So basically, Pete steals Harry's girl, which is Mary Jane, and then the Green Goblin side of Norman Osborn comes back, and he starts to fight the Hobgoblin in one of the episodes, which is pretty cool. And he learns that Peter Parker is actually Spider-Man because he has the little dimension altering device. This little device takes place in like it's like the main catalyst for like a lot of this season and the upcoming season 5. So just keep that in mind. So yeah, he basically spies on Peter Parker, realizes it's Spider-Man, and so the way he wants to expose Peter for being Spider-Man is basically at his son's birthday party. So he does that, and Peter starts to catch on. And before he can do that, Peter burns the house down, basically. After that, the Green Goblin kidnaps Mary Jane, so him and Spider-Man have to fight on a bridge. And while they're fighting, an interdimensional portal opens up, and Mary Jane falls into it, forever being lost to the void or whatever it is. And Peter realizes this, and he tries to kill the Green Goblin, but has a change of heart when Norman Osborn, the side of him, I guess, comes out. But it's a trick, and he sends his glider in to kill Spider-Man, but he dodges it, and Norman gets hit by it, and he gets lost into another portal, just like Mary Jane. Season 4 is pretty, like, I think it's the most ass season by far. Either season 4 or season 2, but season 1, 3, and 5 are great. The season 2 and 4 are kind of ass. But anyway, it begins with Felicia Hardy becoming the Black Cat due to Kingpin breaking her dad out of S.H.I.E.L.D. By the way, they turn up every other fucking season for some reason. But the reason why Kingpin breaks Felicia Hardy's dad out is because he knows the formula to the super soldier serum that creates Captain America, and he makes like a brief cameo in like a flashback sequence. So they basically put the super soldier serum into Felicia Hardy, and that's how she becomes the Black Cat. I'm not sure how true that is to like the comics, cause I'm too lazy to read all the way back. But yeah. Spider-Man and the Black Cat then team up to help cure Morbius of his curse, but Blade's mother, the Vampire Queen, turns up and she basically wants to turn everyone into vampires. But they don't. They stop her, and Morbius wants to stop her too because, well, I guess he he wants to be a good guy now or something, or he's some anti-hero thing or whatever that's going on, like some sort of Deadpool shit going on. So that happens, and both what's his name, Morbius and Blade go around hunting vampires for the next couple, I don't know, episodes, I guess. So yeah, Harry then finds Peter Parker's mask or Spider-Man's mask, whatever you want to say, and he starts having hallucinations of the Green Goblin, but it's just his dad using the interdimensional vortex device thingy. So yeah, he eventually ends up becoming the Green Goblin, and he ends up losing pretty easy to Spider-Man. Like when I say it's pretty easy, yeah, it's not memorable at all because he doesn't lose in any cool way like the previous Green Goblin fights. So he just kind of gets like his ass whooped. So it's pretty easy. And after that, Mary Jane appears on under the bridge, I guess, where they were fighting what's his name, Green Goblin. I think he just falls into like the water, and somebody like finds him and picks him up. And Peter Parker actually finds him and throws him to the psychiatric ward like Eddie Brock and Clay's Classy before. But when he's coming back home, he sees Mary Jane there, and well, they're out on the town or some shit, and then what's it called? Peter confesses that he's actually a Spider-Man to her, and for some reason I don't remember the exact what she says because it's so stupid, but She throws herself off a building trying to kill herself just for Peter to save her because she wants to see if he really loves her. Which makes no sense because, Spider-Man is just saving random people all the time, so it's kind of a weird reason to check if he loves you or not. But my favorite episode of season 4 is the 10th episode because Dr. Connors gets kidnapped by his lizard children, and then they turn him into the lizard. And while that's happening, he's like the ruler of a underground lizard man society. So Spider-Man has to fight him and his little lizard fucking minions, and they Coliseum type out like a little, what's the word I'm looking for, gladiator type thing. So that happens, and both Mary Jane and Dr. Connor's wife make some sort of DNA lizard bomb, and they blow it up under New York, and it turns all the lizard human hybrid people and back into regular lizards, and turns Dr. Connors back into Dr. Connors or whatever. So that's the only good episode in season 4 because, well, it's just so outrageous. So that's the only good episode in season 4. Season 5 is the best season in the series, but it starts off kind of slow. But episodes 7 through 13, the last was that 7, are really damn great. The season starts off with Mary Jane and Peter finally getting married until Harry breaks out of the psychiatric ward and crashes it as the Green Goblin because he has plans to marry Mary Jane, but his plans are they're foiled pretty easily because I think it's not Liz Allen, it's somebody. It's Mary Jane's friend that pops up every other episode or every other like 2 seasons. Confesses her love for Harry, and then he sorts of like gives up for some reason. So that's a good way to start off the episode. But that one's fine. But episodes 2 through 6 are fine as well, but they're not that interesting. At least not to me. They're kind of long to be honest. But Peter finds out his parents are KGB spies, so he heads to Russia where he meets Silver Sable, and Silver Sable is working for the Red Skull. And while this is happening, the Kingpin has information on the Doomsday device under New York or some shit. So he brings back the Sinister Six together to help him, I guess, find it because he wants to take over the U.S. or I think it's just the U.S. or New York, one of the two. But so both him and Kingpin, or both Red Skull and Kingpin, are both trying to find the Doomsday device, and they end up basically finding it, and they activate it, and it's another vortex thingy. This is just so confusing to me, but another vortex thing comes out, and the real Red Skull comes out, and the imposter Red Skull is actually the real Red Skull's son, and the Chameleon is also his stepson, which kind of makes no sense to me because I think in one of the series, this is I think the Chameleon is what's his name, Craven's like stepbrother or brother or something like that, or they're related some way. But anyway, but also Captain America comes out of the shield or out of the vortex. My fault. And basically foils everybody's plans. And before they can get away, or everybody gets away while the entire thing is getting nuked or whatever, the Red Skull turns his son into Electro, which is the only time we ever see Electro in this series. So that's kind of cool, I guess. So yeah, now the new plan to take over the world because they lost the vortex or something is to gain all the, I guess, United Nations votes for them to make them like world leader or something. Kind of a stupid plan, but anyway, Electro wants to rule the world by himself because, well, I guess he just wants to rule. I don't know the exact reason. He just betrays his father, and Shield is the last measure, and they intervene. But Electro takes him down the whole organization with like this lightning. And after Shield's taken care of, that's the last time we ever see of him. So they end up heading to the Doomsday bunker anyway, where Captain America and the Red Skull fight each other, trapping themselves back into the vortex again. So Spider-Man also has to fight Electro, and the only way he beats Electro is by taunting him and basically trying to make him, like, I guess, overcharge himself or deplete himself of energy, something like that. And he ends up getting to the vortex as well and destroys it, dooming them all forever. So that basically just, I guess, that just ends the whole Electro series. So it's fine. It's kind of a slow way to start off the series in my opinion, but it's fine. The next two episodes before the greatest episodes in this series is that Mary Jane and Peter Parker go on their honeymoon or whatever until Hydra Man, Mary Jane's ex-boyfriend, he also makes an appearance in season one, but he never comes back until this season. So he waits about 4 years to come back. So or like 2 years. But anyway, he ends up kidnapping her, and while fighting the Hydra Man, Peter is losing, and well, Mary Jane comes to the rescue, and she has her own hydro powers that she uses on Hydro Man, and they're safe for a while. MJ then gets kidnapped again, and then when Peter finds her, they're underground some underwater facility. Some guy tells her that Mary Jane and Hydro Man aren't the real Mary Jane and Hydro Man. They're just clones of the originals, and well, they're all like arguing, fighting some shit, but the building starts to collapse. And while this happens, this is a pretty. I think this is like top five scene, maybe the best scene in the entire series. But Peter sees Mary Jane evaporate and basically die, losing his girlfriend twice in the matter of like a year or 6 months or something like that. And I don't know. To me, it's a really good scene.
Too late. I'm falling apart too.
We'll get help. Warren! Warren, where the blazes are you?
Forget it, Tiger. He's gone. Oh dear. Before I go, I want you to know just one thing. If any part of me is anything like the real Mary Jane Watson, she loves Peter Parker more than anything in the world. More than anything.
No! Mary Jane! Mary Jane!
So yeah, but anyway, that cloning guy also finds a piece of Spider-Man's suit that he ends up cloning, but not until later. Madame Web then pulls Spider-Man into her reality, and the Beyonder makes Peter fight in his make-pretend war of good versus evil because he wants to see which one is stronger. On the bad team, we got Doctor Doom, Doc Ock, Alistair Smythe, which he also makes appearances in this as well. This a plus, I guess. And the Lizard, and finally the Red Skull is back from the alternate dimension. And on the good team, we have Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four, Storm from the X-Men, Iron Man, and Captain America. He also comes out of the vortex. So yeah, the Beyonder sends them all down to some random planet to see who wins. But the bad team was sent prior, and well, they took over the planet. And I guess it's up to the heroes to take it back over. While they're there, the first person they end up fighting is the Lizard, but he gets like knocked out pretty easily. And they bring him back to some facility they found, and they bring back the Dr. Connor's consciousness back into the Lizard, turn him into a good guy. So that's like, what is that, 9 superheroes, I guess, versus like 4 bad guys. And Black Cat is also brought in to help, and that's like 10 superheroes. But the first villains they end up fighting is Doc Ock, the Red Skull, and Smythe. Both Doc Ock and Red Skull get away, and Smythe stays back or some shit, gets kidnapped. But he ends up switching sides because he doesn't care for this planet. He just wants to get back to hanging out with his dad. So that's like 11 superheroes or some shit. And then Doc Ock and the Red Skull never make an appearance again. So it's kind of lame. The only, I guess, I don't know, none of the supervillains they fight in this series or in this arc are really like doing anything like villainous or whatever, or we don't get to see them any really cool fights. But the next villain is Doctor Doom, but he hasn't really terrorized any of this planet's inhabitants or the aliens on this planet or whatever. He actually made it better for them because he ends up protecting them from like Doc Ock or whatever. He ends up building a little wall around his place he fucking took over. So yeah, he's actually turns out he isn't a good guy, and he ends up stealing the Beyonder's powers. He kicks all the other bad guys out of the planet so he can rule the planet for himself. And I don't know why he would send the bad guys out and not also the good guys, because this kind of foils, I guess, his plan. But the Thing ends up saving his life, or saving the day, I meant. And well, the good guys won the war because I guess all the villains were like lazy as shit or whatever and didn't really think about their plan. And everyone ends up staying back to Earth with no knowledge on what just happened, except for Spider-Man. But I'm summarizing really shitty. But these episodes are really good. It's like top 5 arc of the show for sure. Instead of sending Peter back to New York, the Beyonder sends him back to an alternate timeline where New York is in chaos. In this timeline, both goblins are working together, which is which is a pretty cool and funny scene to see. But they're actually working for Spider-Man, but not just any Spider-Man, Spider Carnage. Before Spider Carnage can kill this Spider-Man, Madam Web and the Beyonders save him and transport him to them. Then some Spider-Verse shit happens where there are multiple Spider-Man. There's one that's like a rich guy that has like some iron armor. There's a Scarlet Spider, which is Ben O'Reilly, if I think that's his name. There's a Spider-Man that doesn't have any powers, and there's a Spider-Man with what's it called, Doctor Octopus arms. I think there's just another normal Spider-Man, but or just like another like regular, I guess, odd Spider-Man. So yeah, so our Spider-Man was just in Scarlet Spider's universe, and in this universe, the cloning guy also took away I guess Peter Parker's genetics or whatever from the Spider-Man suit, and cloned another version of Spider-Man. And this Spider-Man has had it pretty rough in this timeline at least. Both Aunt May dies as well, with Uncle Ben. So and he also figures out to where he might not be the real Peter Parker. So instead of like living with the situation or like killing Ben O'Reilly, Peter Parker just wants to destroy that timeline or universe. The way that they wrote this is really confusing, or I guess showed this off in the show is really confusing. So sorry if I get anything wrong. But anyway, the same thing is happening in the real Peter Parker's timeline, so they have to stop him before he can destroy their universe or timeline or space time continuum thing. So while trying to get to Spider Carnage, a couple of the alternate Spider-Mans fail, and I guess they are sent back to Madam Web. They're actually dead. So they end up defusing the bomb, but Spider Carnage heads over to millionaire Peter Parker's timeline to finish the job. Madam Web and Beyonder only have enough power between the both of them to send one Spider-Man back, and that's the OG. In this new timeline, everybody knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and everybody loves him. Nobody fucking hates him. Nope, not even Jonah Jameson hates him, and neither does the Kingpin. But Kingpin ends up betraying him to help out Spider Carnage or some shit. But the only thing that I found that was really cool about this universe is that instead of being married to what's her name, Mary Jane, he's also married to Gwen Stacy, which is, I'm a Gwen Stacy fan for sure. Definitely love Gwen Stacy more than fucking Mary Jane. So yeah. So Spider Carnage ends up getting a new bomb, and he ends up taking it to some other building. I think it's the top of the Daily Bugle, because that's some satellite shit. So he's ready to destroy the entire universe, but Peter Parker knows he can't really defeat Spider Carnage because he tried to fight him prior or earlier, and that never really worked out because he's just too powerful. But he realized that it's not just Carnage in there; it's also himself, or his alternate timeline, Peter Parker's, I guess, consciousness. So he realizes this, and he basically gets Uncle Ben, who's actually still alive in this universe, to talk to Spider Carnage because, I guess, because he can't do it himself, basically. And while they're talking, Peter Parker starts to come out of Carnage, just like how I guess Spider-Man fought the symbiote in the TV show, or prior in the show. And instead of taking the Carnage suit off and destroying it, he just throws himself into the vortex with a bomb and kills himself. So that's how that ends. So that I like I said, I'm summarizing this shit super bad, but to me it's just so good. So after Peter sort of saves the day, he's brought back to Madam Web, and there's one thing she needs him to do before she sends him back to his universe. He sends him back to No Powers, Spider-Man's universe, to meet Stan Lee. And that's basically where we end off. But the only thing that happens next is that only thing Spider-Man wants to do is to find Mary Jane, or his Mary Jane, in his universe. And so him and Mad Web set off to find her, and that's the end. That's the end of the show. All right. So to me, the series in total, I want to say it's at least a six, like a 6.7, a high six. Just because to me, there's no Sandman, which is pretty cool. The Venom suits and the Carnage suit don't really get to stay that long. And when they do have cameos in the show, some of the heroes just don't even pop up that often. Or I mean, obviously it's a show about himself, but Doctor Strange only makes one appearance throughout the show and never comes back. And Punisher only takes like about 2 episodes to come in. So yeah, it kind of sucks. But then in season 2 and 4, they're basically just filler, at least in my opinion. So they're kind of bad. But season 1 is pretty good. Season 3 and 5 are the best seasons of this show by far. And to me, the versions that we see of Carnage and Venom and I guess I would say I don't think I've ever seen Alistair Smythe in anything else. I know he's in Amazing Spider-Man 2 as like BJ Novak, I think. But other than that, Venom and Carnage are these are the most iconic versions of them by far. So yeah, that's just my opinion though. And the black suit they have in this, the symbiote suit, is just it's just on par. It's so much better than in the movies and in the Spider-Man or Spectacular Spider-Man that show, which is obviously a 10 on Spider-Man media. But the suit is basically straight from the comics, like in Secret Wars. I think it's where he first made the appearance. But in total, if you're a Spider-Man fan, you have to watch this. It's not on par with Spectacular Spider-Man, but it's way better than Ultimate Spider-Man, Spider-Man, whatever the new one's called, Spider-Man: The Amazing Friends, all the other TV shows. Nothing compares to this and Spectacular Spider-Man. These are the holy grails. This is like a, this is like a slam dunk of a show, but Spectacular Spider-Man's like like a windmill between the legs dunk.